Vietnam veterans, welcome home. Germany, good night. All my active duty military personnel that's downrange, good night. It is now time for Big Sarge's Article 15. First of all, happy Veterans Day to everybody that I missed and didn't get a chance to say it to. Happy Veterans Day. U.S. Senator, Republican out of Mississippi, Cindy Hyde-Smith. Come get this work. When did you ever think that saying anything about a public hanging was cool? Mississippi Senator, this is according to NBC News. Mississippi Senator whose runoff opponent is black jokes about public hanging. A video of Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith, the Republican out of Mississippi, who faces a runoff this month against an African-American Democrat, joking about attending a public hanging, went viral Sunday as she insisted there was nothing negative about the remark. If he invited me to a public hanging, I'd be there on the front row, Hyde-Smith said during a campaign stop in Tupelo, Mississippi. The man she was referring to was identified as a local rancher. So, you're telling me, right? All right, Ms. Hyde-Smith, I'm not going to read nothing else. You ain't got to lie to me. You ain't got to lie to kick it. This is your words. These came out of your mouth. But since we're in a President Trump-led government right now that says, well, I mean, I said it. I mean, I didn't say that. I mean, right now, there's an attorney general. There's a temporary attorney general in place right now that the president says he didn't even know. And there are so many recordings of him saying that he knew this guy and he was a great guy. This is what all these Republicans are falling under. They feel like they don't have to, they're not held accountable to anything, even though you said it. There's a video of you saying this and you saying it, we took it out of context. How can we take public hanging out of context? And not only that, Ms. Hyde-Smith, how can we take that out of context in Mississippi? Do I need to reiterate how racist a state Mississippi is? And before you all start adding me, and before you all start coming for me, let me tell you this. I lived in the state of Mississippi. And I know what it's like to live in a racist state like Mississippi. Don't get me wrong, Texas is just one step above, but at least they hide theirs better than they do in Mississippi. And for you to say that you would attend a public hearing, knowing that there have been how many hearings, how many times have African Americans been lynched in the state of Mississippi? If I'm not mistaken, a couple of years ago, well, more than a couple of years ago, the early part of the 2000, well, maybe like 2005, 2006. I'm sorry I didn't look this up because it just popped into my mind. Didn't you all have some Anglo-Americans who left and found a gay African-American man and killed him? You left the party saying, we finna go mess with some N-words, and you found this African-American male and you killed him? This was in Mississippi. Do I need to talk about all the things? They made a movie called Mississippi Burning based off the racial injustices and things that were going on to the residents, African-American residents in Mississippi. So do I need to reiterate, ma'am, that saying public hanging is wrong? Are you serious right now? How can I take your remark, how can I take your words out of context when I know the history of Mississippi? And it's still like that to this day. If it was allowed, you all would still be hanging African Americans publicly. So how can we take your comments out of context, Ms. Hyde-Smith? What did you mean to say? If the man invited me to dinner, I'd be there. If the man invited me for Cokes, I'd be there. If the man invited me for ice cream, I'd be there. If the man invited me to attend his church, I'd be there. If the man invited me to a barbecue, I'd be there. If the man invited me to a high school football game, I'd be there. If the man invited me to a play, I'd be there. If the man invited me to the movies, I'd be there. If the man invited me to an opera, I'd be there. Do you see how many options I just gave you, Ms. Hyde-Smith? You said public hanging because that's what you mean, because you're running against an African-American candidate. That's who your opponent is. You mean public hanging so you can feed the narrative to your base. Their racist base. And it's so sad because, and listen, I don't care. You can get mad at me, state of Mississippi. You residents can get mad at me. It's so sad that you all fall or follow people like this. When your state is what on the poverty level line? Well, I mean, what are you ranked in the poverty level? What are you ranked in the educational level? Shouldn't you be more worried about eating and living better, getting your state up to standards? Shouldn't you be worried about a better educational system instead of following these type of people? You voted for a candidate, so what, you know what that means? If she can say public hanging like that and don't think nothing's wrong for it, y'all been knowing who she is. And y'all still voting her in and voting her in and voting her in. And so for her to say something like that, do you think that she cares about her African-American constituents? No. She cares nothing about her African-American residents. To say something like that, that is offensive, ma'am. For you to say public hanging, you would attend a public hanging with him, with the rancher. And where's the rancher? How come he hasn't come out and denounced her words? You know why? Because birds of a feather flap, flap, flap. Sports Talk with Big Sarge.